Hi design thinkers, my name is Matthew Sear and today we're jumping into Figma and we're going to be building out from scratch a basic design system. We're going to be building first our color palette. So without further ado, if you'd like to learn the basics about setting up a color palette inside of Figma, you're in the right place. Sit back, relax, and let's jump into the video. Alright, here we are inside of Figma. Let's get started with creating our collection from scratch. I'm going to be using, though, a quick, easy plugin. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to be using my Supa palette. And basically, I'm going to create both a dark and light mode as well as a grayscale, and I'm going to have a primary color. And that's pretty much what you'll need to get started with any sort of basic design. We're going to use a series of color gradients to set ourselves up, and then we're going to see the pros and cons on doing method A, which will be our fast and easy one, and then we are going to be doing a more technical one right at the very end. So let's get into it. You'll be able to grab the project after we finish at the end, and it'll be in the description box below. I'm going to set up my color palette for my primary. I already got one right here, which is fantastic. And I can go create. There we go. And I can switch over and I can also create both my light and my dark mode. I can open up my palette and there is my two sets. I did notice that I might want to switch that one around. So I'll create my dark mode. There we go. And I like to start where I keep the same amount of digits. So I'm going to actually now adjust that one to 0. And what I can do is I can unlock that. And this new one will be my neutral set. So neutral will be basically represented for my grays. I will stay in the blue spectrum, and I'm just going to be moving as close across down here as possible, still remaining in that blue spectrum a little. And as you can see, I can get down here and get to like those darks. I'm gonna make sure I flip over to my light mode, and there we go. The goal is we want to have some really white whites, and then we want to have some, you know, quite dark darks, and ideally going for that AAA value means better contrast overall. So happy days. I will just adjust this until I get something that I like. Depending upon if you're in a blue or a red, this will kind of change the way that it looks and feels. Blue has this kind of cool blue, sleek, light gray, and then I find the red looks quite like how Figma has their gray set up as well. I will now create this palette here. I can go down and flip over to my dark mode, and I'll create that one as well. There we go. So I have now a very easy peasy actual dark and light mode already set up with that plugin. And now I can just apply these directly to my asset. So I'll select this frame and I can go over here. I can see there's my color sets, and I can, for example, apply that fill. But I can see that this is a little not white enough for what I'm looking for. And that's because I would rather make, which I call a base set, and the base set I would name is give this one white, and I'm going to create a group, move that group to the top, call it base, and then I'm duplicating that, and I'm going to call this one my black. Now I don't really use black, but I do use a kind of version of black. But I already got these colors down here, so I may as well just grab the darkest of darks from there and then go over here. And then I may as well, for my dark here, apply that. And then I'll have a quick peek, have a look at that luminosity. I like to have my dark around basically a 5, maybe a little bit above. You choose what you want. And then I'm going to copy this one across here, and I'm going to flip basically them around. This black will turn into a white, and the white will turn into the black, which makes sense when you're flipping them. There we go. Which means that I can now apply my white, which is fantastic, but I want my border which I will use my actual 10 neutral on that border. And there we go. So I got a really nice looking border. And I'm going to add a kind of like a primary dark. I'm going to add my, for example, in the fill, something a little less than that. Apply that 7. And then we'll notch that one down to the 600. So there we go, which means that this, if I wanted to select this and drag that across, I can actually switch this to my dark mode. Double check these guys. Yeah, we can go dark. And there we go. As you can see, this is flipped over. And we'll go back up top here. I'm going to actually minus that. We can chuck this on here. We're going to select both these two frames. So I'd like to switch these over to basically both be the same variable as this. A dark and a light. Fantastic. But as you can see, this could be technically maybe more gray. It's kind of a little dark on the black here. I would kind of rather have a bit more control over how I'm flipping these. Let's have a look at what happens when we want to do our colored version. So I'm going to do the one colored version, and this is going to actually have my blue. I'm going to choose this blue here, and then I will grab those colors and let's just apply like a full blue. So this looks great here. Looks fine. As I drag it across here, we can see that it maintained the same blue and also the text gone black, which might not be what you want. If I had the option that blue would be darker, and I would rather have the option that this would be lighter, or even something like this. The only problem is that if I wanted to flip and switch this one across, as you can see, it changes to a different color here. And that's the actual problem that we will encounter when we create version 1. Version 1 of our color palette doesn't really allow us the control to actually really pick and choose the colors that we want for our dark and light mode. It does allow you to have a quick color palette though, so if you need something that just inverts, then there you go, done. Now, let's make this not just invert, but let's give ourselves a lot more control over our actual colors. And what we're going to do is I'm going to quickly use another plugin that you'll be able to trial out if you like as well. And this one basically allows me to duplicate this set. Now, of course, you don't necessarily need this plugin. You can actually just create your color set from scratch at the start. This kind of just speeds up the process for us. So what I have done is I duplicated this one down the bottom here, and then all I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this all the way back, but I've got to edit these two first, because I actually, instead of putting them where I have a dark and a light mode, I'm going to stagger them into one solid column. So I'm going to eliminate that light. And what I can do is I can go up the top here, and I can do a slash, and I can actually call this one dark. There we go. Which makes a group of this, and now I can drag these into the dark group. Like so. And I'm going to go back to the original collection, and I'm going to do the same. But I'm going to call this one light, for the light side. And I'm going to also drag those groups in here too. So now I have my light group, and now I have my dark group. And I can use that plugin again, which is pretty handy. And I can actually go and copy the one from the previous group, which was those dark ones. I can copy those across. I'm going to press copy, and I can paste them back into my original set, like so. And I can go back to my original set. I can actually limit, like if I go down to those dark ones, you can see the dark ones are in there. It's actually perfect. I will eliminate that, and I'm going to call this one my tokens, like so. So what's going to actually happen here, by the way, if you're thinking about on the developer end, is that these will basically be the tokens that they will get spat out to them. But now I can't do the switching. And this is where we're going to actually move into another set where we're actually going to, let's say, take this collection and we're going to call, we can call this patterns. In patterns, I'm actually going to have the ability to switch the light and dark modes. Actually, you know what? Let's call this modes, actually. Because in the end, it's going to basically be switching between different modes. But the cool thing for this is it's mostly going to put both the dark and the light together, and it's going to set up I'm going to set up an actual pattern for myself here. I'm actually going to have a fill, and then I'm going to then duplicate that, and I'm going to have a border. And with my border, I'm also going to have a primary, secondary, and tertiary. And what these are is actually what I'm doing is just taking the fact that I'm building these patterns, and instead of like creating every single color and then having everything in there, I can actually just manage my colors by creating a very simple pattern for myself and making life easier and streamlining the way that I'm designing some things. So here is a simple pattern. I have a gray pattern at the top there. You can see that I've kind of got this blue pattern down the bottom here. And I also have this lighter pattern as well. I want them to work on dark and light. Now I can definitely call this first column in here my light. And what I can do now is instead I can align my colors because I know what I want over here. And this is why I design something first, even make some screens and then refine makes a lot easier for yourself. So we're going to grab this, and I'm actually going to use my, as you can see, I got my light bases, but now I got my dark ones. Now I haven't changed some of these, but you will be able to see what happens when we do. So I'm going to assign my white for the primary. I'm going to then take that 10 for that line there. And for here, for my, let's say for this first pattern that I'm creating, I'm just going to create a very simple one. I'm going to use my dark, and then I will use that, and then I will create this one. This one is my light one. Now I can press plus, and now I can make my dark mode. And this is where I can, if I like, I can switch it directly to what I want from my dark spectrum. If I like, I'm going to use this one. And I'm going to then go down to my dark, and I'll still use the 10 from there, from the dark. Actually, what we can do now is I can go dark, and then I can go into that white flip version in the dark mode, and I can go to my other, there we go. And this allows me the choice to pick and choose and pick the right colors exactly the way I want. And then I have this set. I'm actually just going to select this whole set, and I'm going to call this one neutral. So this is going to be my neutral set of colors that I can use on my designs. And if I go to, let's say, apply these to my designs down the bottom here, we can actually see that I have all these others. It's probably too much. And I can see though down the bottom there's my neutral set, and that's really all I want to see. I don't want to see all this other stuff. So I'm going to actually apply some scopes to my actual colors over here. And this one's really easy because I can just basically click at the top, drag this all the way down the bottom, hold down shift, and as I click, I can select them all, and I can go right click, and I can go edit, and I can say hide them all. And then I'm also going to hide them from publishing as well, so we don't need to see them. Make sure I do both of my modes, and there we go. Now I have both modes completely hidden, and I don't need to actually worry about them. So now when applying my colors, I can just see this set. So I can go to the top here, and I can apply the fill, which is the fill with the fill, the outline with the outline. Life is getting a lot easier now with applying colors. I can apply this one here, and I can apply my next one there, and I can apply that one there. So there we have it. We now have the ability to quickly switch those around, and I can drag that out, eliminate those. So, and I can quickly switch this one around with my dark mode, and there we go. If I put the dark on the background, I can see that it kind of is still the dark. Well, this is where we get that flexibility back again with the way that we've done our token structure. So we can go back to those core colors. I usually actually have to say, I usually call this actual primitives. I think it might be actually handy just to switch that one to actual colors. That'll make more sense. There we go. So back in our primitives, we can actually now go down to our dark set, and we can actually be able to change this to a color that we want to use on our dark mode. And this will be the darkest of darks. Like if you were using a black, you would be switching to that black, and that will be the black that you switch to. And actually, that one is nice. I like that one much more than I liked where we had it before. So now I can reassign that color. And this is why we have a dark set of colors that we can manage here. And then we can be able to then set up how they work inside here. And we can now simply grab this, and we can also duplicate it. And I can call this one primary. And because I have a primary set now, I can actually define, let's say, those blues again. Let's say I go blue for that, and I can use a slightly darker blue for the border, but I want to start using my light white color. Then I'm going to use a little bit of a blue with a tint, and then a little bit more. And now I can go over to my dark mode, and I can actually start to set up how I want it to look on my dark mode. So I can pick, for example, maybe my 10 on the blue, and for that border, I can use the 0, and then I can still, if I want to, use that kind of white, and then I can end up going with potentially a lighter blue here with a lighter blue there. And now I have a much better flip of my dark and light mode with these colors that I've just set up. So I can go back into my card down the bottom here, and I can easily switch this around to that new pattern that we just created. And I can add that one in. So there we have it. And now if I drag this into my dark, it responds exactly the way that I wanted it, and it looks a lot better, easier to see, etc. So fantastic. And this is how you can continue to keep rapidly creating different patterns. But you want to duplicate that again. Let's say I call this one my light version. Maybe I want to call this one my bold version. Now I have this, and I can quickly adjust that. Let's say I flip that one up to the lighter side. And for this one, I'm going to use a dark blue, and then dark blue tearing down. And for my dark version, I still want it to kind of be a little lighter, but I don't want to go too much. So I can pick the colors that basically align the most with what I'm trying to do for the dark mode. And there we have it. So I can now jump back down here, select my asset, quickly jump in here. I can pick my new color sequence. And there we go. And now I have this one that also works in my dark mode. And finally, if you're wanting it to then take your colors to that next level, because you have now these 3 different types of colors, you can take these patterns that you've just created and you can actually set them up into a new collection. And this one could manage your state, semantic, and this one we can go and we can add a fill. We can duplicate that border, and we can have a primary, secondary. Finally, we can have our tertiary, like so. And we can actually align the newly created collections that we have down here. I can add that neutral one, for example, and scroll all the way down the bottom. And because I've set this one up, I can actually do this as that main or default state. Use default actually. And we can click here, duplicate that one. And if I expand that out a little more, we can do selected. It could also be pressed as well if you like. And all that we need to do is we can actually just switch between these. Of course, you can set up whatever patterns you like. You can change the sequence of all of these however you like. The best that you've just done is you've set that little semantic one up like so. So I could actually just grab, for example, this here, and instead of using all of those, I can easily attach that semantic set on to this here. And this will also give me the ability not just to flip from dark to light, but also allows me to quickly be able to flip around from, of course, that darker light, but then I can also have my actual states that could be available. So I can drag this one out, and there we go. I can flip to my hovered state, and then if I select it, I can switch to my selected state. And I think something went wrong there, so let's quickly have a quick peek. Oh yes, we didn't flip those around, so we'll make sure that we select the right one. There we go. Done. So now we are able to actually select those, and then I can duplicate that out. I can flip to my dark mode, and now I have both my dark and light mode. I have my patterns, and I have the ability to flip between these patterns. I can use the patterns directly, or I can end up using them in a way that I can change the different states of my card. And that's how we can set up a very basic but very powerful color collection inside of Figma, enabling us to kind of continue building out our colors and enabling us to then rapidly create a lot of different styles. So I hope that you found this video helpful. Please let me know in the comment section below. And until next time, design thinkers, keep thinking, keep creating, keep building amazing things. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.